Got my apron so I don't ruin my clothes, because God knows I've ruined my fair share. And, okay, apron, check. Got my gloves, safety glasses. They're oh so attractive. Glove 2. And now I am ready to do some woodworking. Hello friends, welcome back. It is so good to see all of you. I hope this finds you well and happy and that all is good in your world. Today we are going to jump into a super fun woodworking project. So I don't know if y'all remember, several weeks ago, I embarked on a journey of refinishing an old dining room table with the idea that I was going to turn it into a freestanding, or a standing sitting workbench for my studio space. It turned out great. I loved the results. Wasn't too keen on the color. However, the main problem with that whole project is the table just had too much wobble in it. Because if you remember the way that dining room table was constructed, it didn't give me a solid surface on the very bottom to properly attach the legs. So I just had too much wiggle in it, which wasn't good for filming. Because it made y'all dizzy and it made me dizzy. So today we're gonna build a whole brand new workbench. I am very excited about this because I'm actually going to attempt this all on my own. I had said at the beginning of 2025 that my goal for this year was to expand my woodworking skills and become a little bit more confident in doing so. So we're going to attempt, or I'm going to attempt, to build from scratch a brand new workbench. Let's go see how this goes. Okay, y'all, are we ready to build this workbench? I'm excited, but I'm also incredibly nervous. So the first step is to cut all of the pieces. Michael did create plans for me. He's the engineer in our little duo team here. So he was kind enough to work up the plans for me, and so that's what I will be working off of today. I will have these plans available. You'll be able to find the link for that, for the plans, in my description box, and as well as a discount code for 50% off of those plans. Okay, so first things first, we've got the plans. Now we need to cut all of our pieces, and I'm not gonna lie, I am very nervous for this part because the table saw makes me really nervous. I do have a good healthy fear of the table saw, as you should, and so Michael went over a whole bunch of safety stuff with me first. I was starting to feel a little bit more confident. I made a few small practice cuts and then went to work cutting all the pieces. Every single woodworking project requires a tremendous amount of sanding. My absolute least favorite part of woodworking is the sanding, but it has to be done. So next I'm going to go ahead, after we got all of the pieces cut, I need to come in and just give them a light sanding to just knock off any of those burrs that you get from the saw blades. So we're gonna do that really quick. I think I need to sit down after that. Oh goodness. Okay, so sanding, light sanding, or just our first initial light sanding is done. It's out of the way, it's over with. Now I'm going to move on to drilling some pocket holes, and there's going to be a whole bunch of these. So to attach the top to all of my side pieces on my desk, I don't want to see any screws, obviously. So I'm going to drill pocket holes so that all of our screws will be hidden. So up next, pocket hole drilling, here we come. Okay, so this is my top piece. Now I'm going to attach all the sides, so I've got to drill pocket holes. And I think I'll put 5 pocket holes, and I want to try to space them as equally as I can. So 5 pocket holes might be just a tiny bit overkill, but y'all, I always tend to do that when I am attaching things together. I always go overboard because I feel like the more screws I have in there, the stronger it's going to be. So I don't know if there is any scientific fact behind that, but for my own peace of mind, I put 5 screws on the side of this and probably tripled that on the back. So, and I did come in and measure them for the pocket holes because I did kind of want them to be as equally spaced as I possibly could. And then I took it over to our Kreg jig, K-R-E-G, Kreg jig. This is a pocket hole jig, and then Michael rigged it up on this nice little board thing that he made for it, so it just makes it really easy to use. And honestly, this tool is just brilliant. It's the most brilliant thing ever created because it does truly make drilling pocket holes very precise, very perfect, and very, very easy. So you just line up your marks with where you want to drill the hole, and then you literally just start drilling. As easy as that. The main thing to remember when you're drilling your pocket holes is to make sure you have the direction correctly. So this is going to be attached to the top of my board. So my screw holes are at the bottom, and you want to make sure that is very important. You also want to be really mindful of getting the right side. So you want the wrong side facing you when you drill the holes, because that's where the pockets are going to go. So for me, I wanted the widest, smoothest part of my board facing outward. So I put the opposite side, the darker side, inward. So be mindful of that when doing pocket holes. Just make sure you are drilling the correct direction and that you have your wrong sides facing you when you are drilling your pocket holes. Are drilled. That was a little nerve-wracking. I was so afraid I was going to mess that up, but all went very well. So pocket holes are drilled. Now I'm just going to go ahead and start assembling. So to assemble, I'm first going to flip everything upside down. Everything will be upside down because I'm going to go ahead and get the back pieces and all the side pieces and the middle divider for the drawer pocket attached to the top before I assemble the bottom. I just think it'll be a lot easier to do it that way. So I don't know if that's the right way, but that's the way I'm doing it. Before just going to town and permanently attaching all of my pieces, I decided it might be smart to go ahead and place everything in its proper place before attaching them, because I don't, want to get to screwing things in and then go, oh, kind of like what I'm doing right here, questioning, oh, where does this piece go? So I did go ahead and just place everything together really quickly in its proper placement, just to make sure that when I do go to permanently attach these, I don't make any mistakes. I now have all of the pieces in their proper place, so I'm ready to go ahead and permanently attach them. However, I did want to address one quick little thing. If you are wondering what that strange little gap is in the back of this, that is for my long arm tripod, my filming tripod. I couldn't just drill a hole back there because my long arm has a clamp on it. So I had to have that little gap in there, that opening, so that I could get my clamp in there and properly attach it to the workbench for filming. Okay, so now we're ready to permanently attach. So I do use some wood glue here. I spread just a thin layer of wood glue on each piece and then come in and just start screwing everything in. And oh, I love the pocket holes. It first of all makes the alignment really easy. There's no guesswork here. The screw just goes right in and bada bing, just like that, everything is pretty well aligned. And because I do tend to go way overboard with the screws, there is a whole bunch of these to screw in so that I can attach all of my pieces. So sit back and enjoy, y'all, because this is going to take a little bit of a minute. Something else to think about if you are building a piece like this is to make sure that all of your corner pieces, like you can see here, are properly attached to the adjacent piece at both the bottom and the top to give this lots of extra strong hold. So I drilled a pocket hole at the top and the bottom of this piece, the corner piece, to make sure that they were well attached to one another. And I will just repeat that same thing here on this piece as well. Okay, so I got the top attached to the back piece and the side piece. I got the drawer insert installed. The drawer stop is installed. So now I'm going to go ahead and flip this bad boy over and get the bottom attached and then build a drawer. Y'all, I did not know my own strength until I had to lift this bad boy up on top my desk frame. Ooh, this sucker was heavy. But I got it up there, and now I'm just working on getting everything perfectly lined up with the frame of my desk. I want to make sure that I have all the edges, the back, the front, everything perfectly lined up. Once I feel confident that that is really well lined up, I'm going to come in with this T ruler. I think that's what it's called. I really am not sure what this ruler is called. Straight edge, T straight edge, something like that. Michael would know. Anyway, so I lined that up, double checked, triple checked my alignment on everything. And if I got that drawer pocket divider perfectly straight in there, this little trick should work. I should be able to just draw a straight line straight down from the front to the back of that. And then I will come in and start pre-drilling all of my holes for screws so that I can attach the bottom piece to the frame. And I am using a countersink bit here to do this so that my screws will sit very flush with the bottom part of my desk here. So I'm just going to go ahead and start drilling, because again, overkill a little bit, overkill alert. I do tend to put way more screws than need be, but you know, I guess that's just me, one of my little idiosyncrasies, right? So I got all the pre-drilling done, and now we're just going to come in and start attaching this piece to the frame using some screws. might have taught myself a little lesson here that you don't need this many screws. This really is overkill. Because by the time I got to this section, I was like, what have I done to myself? I felt like I had been screwing in screws for what felt like an eternity, but it really wasn't. I think in reality it was less than 15 minutes, but still, it took a long time. However, at this point, this was the screw that I was looking for, y'all. The very, very last one, and all is looking really good here. So now I'm going to go ahead and get this drawer built. So when I originally designed this piece, I was only going to have one drawer on the right side of this. Well, y'all, not all things go as planned sometimes, because when I built this, I first, the top piece of this workbench is laying on the bottom. So it's currently the bottom piece here. And so I did build this drawer before I got that bottom piece put on. So we kind of went back in time a little bit here, but stay with me, y'all. Okay, so anyway, when I designed this, I was only going to have one drawer. However, when I started building it, I forgot that I had the top piece facing down. It was on the bottom. And so I put the drawer in the wrong place. The drawer was actually supposed to be on the right side of the desk. Like if you're looking at the desk, it was supposed to be on the right. Well, when I flipped everything over, I realized that I had put this in the wrong place. So I end up fixing that whole little mistake by building a second drawer. So all of that to say, we're now assembling some drawers. And this is a pretty straightforward process here. I just cut all of the pieces to the proper lengths, size, and everything, and then I do wood glue all of my pieces together, and then come in and reinforce this with some brad nails. So if you don't have a brad nailer, you could use screws to do this. If you do use screws, I highly recommend pre-drilling everything. So we'll go ahead and just continue assembling some drawers here. Remember when I said I had learned my lesson about overkill on the screws? Well, I think I lied, because apparently I didn't learn a darn thing, because I put 7 trillion brad nails in this drawer. I was determined this thing was never going to fall apart. However, the drawback to that is I now have 7 trillion teeny weeny little holes that have to be filled. So I got a little bit lazy, took a few shortcuts, and decided I'm only going to fill the holes that are on the drawer face. So I did come in and use some putty to fill those all in, let it dry really well, gave it a good sanding, and now this piece is ready for paint. Oh, I'm getting a little bit tired, y'all. Not as young as I used to be. Okay, so the entire desk is now assembled, the drawer is assembled, and so now, yep, we get to do a whole bunch more sanding. We're just gonna sand and sand and sand and sand. Don't you just love sanding? Yep, I keep telling myself that I do, even though, you know, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It just really depends on the piece, but there was so much to be sanded here, and I did get a little tired. But, you know, it's just part of the process. It has to be done. So we did that initial rough sand on our piece to knock down the burrs, and to do that I used an 80 grit. However, for the finish sanding, I started out with a 120 and then went up to a 220 and then a 320, so that I could be sure and get a really nice silky soft finish on this. So I do think it's important to take the time to properly sand your piece to get that nice, beautiful finish, because it does have an effect on the way your piece is going to take stain and even paint. So yeah, take the time to do all the proper sanding. So we're just going to keep sanding and sanding and sanding. I am so glad the sanding is all finished. Ugh, I really don't enjoy sanding. Sometimes it's not so bad, but sometimes it just feels mundane and tedious. So anyway, I'm very glad to have that finished. Now I can stain, and I am looking forward to getting some stain on this. I always go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth when it comes to choosing stain colors, and trying to decide even if I want stain on this piece or if I just want to seal it, leave it the natural color. But I am really wanting to go with a very rich, deep color with this piece. So I spent a lot of time searching stain colors to make sure I was going to get one that didn't pull red or yellow or orange. I think I found the color. I narrowed it down to 2. I did do some test swatches, and of the 2 found my favorite. So now we're going to go ahead and get some stain on this piece, and fingers crossed, I'm going to love it. I have to admit that staining this piece made me more nervous than the actual build itself, because y'all, in the past I have stained things and then ended up really not liking it, because oftentimes stain interacts with the natural wood and it pulls a lot of those natural colors out, and you end up with orange, yellow, red hues and tints. So I was nervous about this, but this stain is absolutely gorgeous. It is going on so pretty. It's not pulling any of those ugly colors. There's no red, there's no yellow, there's no orange. It really is going on beautifully. So when I am staining, I do start with a small section at a time. When staining, you always want to work in small sections, and I do brush on some stain and then immediately wipe away any of that excess. And oftentimes you do have to do another light sanding after each coat. However, with this piece, I did not get anything raising up. It stained beautifully. I will have this stain color that I chose linked in the description box for y'all. And this took a little bit of time, so I'm not going to bore you with the entire process, but at least you get to see some of it and the color. Don't you just love this color? It's so pretty. Yay! I am so excited because I actually really do love the stain color on this piece. I love how it just looks so rich and deep and dark, and I'm really loving it. I'm very happy with the stain choice that I made. Everything looks fantastic. So now I am going to finish off this desk by attaching the legs. So I'm going to be using the same exact legs. I might be getting tired. The same exact legs that I used on the previous one, my previous attempt at building this, so the one with the dining room table. I'm just going to pull the legs off of that, reattach them to the new desk, and put some drawer pulls on, and then I get to take it in the studio, style it, and it's all done. Woohoo! I'm so excited. I think I'm excited. Yeah, I'm excited. Attaching the legs was the most exciting part for me because it meant I'm almost done. This piece is nearly finished and I'm loving how it is looking so far. The leg assembly here was very simple, very straightforward. I simply just had to screw this in place, but I was very careful to get all of my measurements perfect so that I had the legs perfectly centered from side to side and front to back on this piece. So yep, very simple, straightforward, simple process, just simply screwing the legs and attaching so that it's attached to the desk. Oh my gosh, y'all, I am so happy with how this workbench turned out. I love it, and I love it in this space. It fits this space perfectly. It gives me a little bit more walking room here, which I really needed because things were getting pretty encroached up on each other in all of my pieces and furniture, just feeling a little encroached in the space. So I'm definitely loving it. Yeah, it has a few flaws, but I'm okay with that because it is my very first big build that I've ever done on my own without Michael's assistance. So I am feeling pretty pleased with myself. I feel a little proud that, yeah, I did this. I did this with my own 2 hands. So I couldn't be happier, y'all. I could not be happier. I definitely think it was a good design choice to add the second drawer to the other end of this, it kind of gave it a balanced look. It makes it definitely feel more balanced and more intentional. And I really love the design choice to add the black paint to the drawers. I love the contrast. I kind of like that we're in the same color tone, the same color field, but yet it added enough contrast to give it that fun, modern, mid-century modern flair. So yeah, I really like it. And the pulls turned out super good. I just love how it came together, y'all. I can hardly wait to start creating and designing on this new workspace. Y'all are gonna have to let me know what you think. What do you think of it compared to the other one? Now I think I need to build 2 more desks for this space so that I have matching pieces. Because after I put it in here and started looking, I was looking at my desk and my printer table going, I think we need to change those so everything is matchy-matchy in here. So that is what we are jumping into again next week. I am excited, and I know, because I learned so much building this one, I know I'm going to be able to take what I learned from building this piece and apply it to the second 2. So next week we're building a new desk and a small table for my printer. So y'all come back, see me again next week. Until then, take care, and I will see y'all soon. Bye, friends.